surveyor did wrong. The surveyor is licensed, and it was closed as a civil matter. It's a dispute of facts, and it had to go to court because one neighbor is complaining that the surveyor for the other one was wrong. The second file is 2023-42. Again, a third-party complaint. It's a dispute of facts in a civil matter. The investigator found that the surveyor is properly licensed and did nothing wrong. Unfortunately, it seems lately the past 2 or 3 surveying complaints that we have received have been the neighbors of the party who hired this surveyor complaining because now they're saying that cannot possibly be where that stake belongs because that's my property. So the surveyors in these 2 files again were properly licensed. It was the neighbor, not the person who hired the surveyor, and the files were closed with the responses from the surveyors being sent to the complainant and the complainant being told there were no violations and that if they wished to pursue it, they had to go to court.
Right. Okay. Typical.
Yeah.
That's a good summary. Appreciate that. Nothing surprising in the way you've described them. All right. So would that conclude your report?
It would, sir.
Thank you.
You're
Any questions
welcome.
from anybody regarding status? All right. We appreciate it, Janita. We'll see you next month.
All right.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome, Mr. Chairman, board members. Thank you so much for letting me go first. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
The next item on our agenda, I think, should be the minutes from June 13th. Well formulated and summarized as far as I can tell. Did anybody notice anything that needed to be amended or corrected? If not, is there a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
So moved.
I'll second.
Done.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Bob. All those in favor of the motion to accept the minutes from June 13th, 2023 as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries.
I abstained just because I wasn't here.
Okay, thank you. That's correct. One abstention.
Tony, did you call the meeting to order?
I was about to say, one thing I haven't done yet is call the meeting to order by roll. I did call the meeting to order at 9:03, but forgot to call for the attendance. So let's do that. John DeWolf. Richard Swezak.
Here.
Good morning. DeAndrea here. Bob Doan.
Here.
Good morning. Al Regina.
Here.
Thanks, Al. Ken Peterson.
Here.
Ryan Thompson.
I'm here.
And Robert Don.
Present.
We have a quorum in all respects, so we're underway. The next one I think we should just run through is our correspondence. We had 4 items, I believe, if I recall correctly. The first one is a notice from an applicant in Louisiana who has multiple licenses throughout. Had the misfortune of forgetting to pay his fee, so they fined him and sent him to an ethics course and a bunch of other things. But through NCAAS violations or actions by the board, they have a clearinghouse, so we're being notified simply as one of the states in which he's licensed. He's paid his fees, paid his dues, primarily just for information. Our state, of course, allows the reinstatement within 5 years. So Louisiana is a tough state. Any comments or questions? I had some comments in the margin, which I won't repeat. Probably because I couldn't spell it, but something that starts with draconian. I don't know, something like that. But the next one is a notice A2. It's from NCAAS, constantly updating and advising the boards of what changes in the exam format, timing, schedule, etc. Clarifying pencil and paper, and notifying the specific times that other exams will be available. So again, for information, primarily for Jane to keep track of, because it's most important when the applicants inquire. Any questions, comments, acknowledgement? The next item, A3, was a letter signed ultimately by Stephen Arndt, PhD, PE. I met him a number of times, very knowledgeable, dedicated nuclear engineer. And I guess because of the number of individuals who are seeking nuclear licensure, the exam that the NCAAS has to prepare is expensive because there's less income. So they tend to consider whether or not they should keep offering exams when there's a low demand. So he's just presenting that if asked, that we support the fact that we need to have that examination. As long as the examination is thorough, in my mind, it's like structural. I'd love to have the structural guys doing all the examination they can or want. And so the same thing would be for nuclear, in my opinion. But other than that, it's just an informative letter asking for support if and when it's requested. That makes sense?
Yes, it does.
Any comment? I don't think there's an action for us. It's just looking for support or making us aware of the fact that it is always under consideration. The next two letters, 4 and 5, A4 and A5, are again, requests for individuals who have experience in the two fields. One is naval architecture and the other one is mining and mineral processing. For those who have experience and would be willing to participate in what they call the PACs, professional activity and knowledge study. So having input from knowledgeable individuals in the industry is what they're requesting. Once again, if you have any expertise in those two fields and would be willing to volunteer your time, you can notify NCAAS to be on the committees. So that covers the correspondence that we received. And then throughout the agenda and supplemental agenda, we have, I believe, 5 items. But on our regular agenda, the first item is an acknowledgement of the fact that under D2, we have a list of candidates who passed the CBT, NCAAS, and the state exam. And while Jane noticed candidates, she was being optimistic because we have just one candidate. So Jeffrey Frechette passed both the national and the Connecticut 2-hour exam. Congratulations, Jeffrey. We'd all like to see a few more, but we don't seem to be getting them. The next item on the surveying agenda was reviewed by the LS members. It was Sergio Vieira. Sergio was seeking I believe, class 5 exam.
I've reviewed the application, Tony, and I recommend approval.
Okay, thank you, Ken.
I'll second.
So I reviewed the application as well. And I don't think that I think he should be approved, but I don't think it should be a class 5.
Okay.
And I don't know the proper procedure for making sure we talk about this, but I guess this is it. So
Yeah.
So he does not have a surveying degree. He has a civil engineering degree.
Correct.
But he has many years of experience, and I believe that actually should be a class 6.
Okay.
based
Yeah.
on what I was reviewing.
I would agree with that too, Ryan.
Okay. So what we frequently do, and I don't know what the significance is, but you're right. You can transfer to class 6 and approve. His impression was that he should be 5, so he filled out the application that way. But
Yeah, but that's why I bring it up, because I don't
Right.
know. I mean, I saw he indicated C5, but I think that it really falls under the class 6. Again, I don't think he should be disapproved. I just think that
Right.
it's the wrong
right,
classification.
okay. So the I guess Jane would notice that the board approved the application and transferred him to class 6 due to his experience and college degree.
Correct.
Is that about acceptable?
Yes.
Yes,
So Ken, would you accept that as an amendment to the motion to approve?
I do.
Exam and transfer to class 6 based on education and experience.
I do, Tony.
All those in favor of the motion to approve Sergio Vieira for class 6 exams, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Ryan, for bringing that up. So Ken and Ryan moved and seconded. All right, that motion carries. All right, the next item on the surveying list was a class 14 applicant, William Romansky.
So
Brett,
actually, interestingly enough, this one is just kind of in the same situation. He is going for class 14, but he has a 4-year degree and 24 credits in math and 24 credits of surveying through University of Maine, but only 2 years of land surveying experience. And actually, I believe that should be a class 13 applicant, as a similar degree with 2 years, as opposed to a 2-year degree with 4 years, which is class 14.
So 4 years and 4 years and 4-year degree and 2 years experience moves them to class 13.
Yes.
And that's what he applied for. His application says class 13.
Oh, it does? Okay, so
Yeah.
then somewhere I saw class 14, then I must have
Yeah.
been mistaken.
I think it's on the agenda. That's the only place that I think it says. 14.
Okay, maybe then that's fine. So then yes, but I do agree it should be a class 13.
Okay, very good. So we'll just correct the agenda to approve for class 13. So is there a motion to approve William Romansky for class 13? Who?
Yeah.
Okay, Ryan, okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ken. Jane, did you have a comment? No.
No, I'll make the correction.
Okay, so all those in favor of the motion to approve William Romansky for class 13 license?
aye.
Say
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. All right, thank you. Now, let's see. That was the end of the surveying items on the the main agenda, and we have a supplemental agenda. Supplemental agenda. Which had one applicant for reinstatement, Edward Pelletier.
Why couldn't you sleep? You just were not
So-
really restless?
Anybody have a comment on that? For Edward Pelletier to reinstate, his license lapsed a year ago. Similarly, he was working. He gave us a list of jobs that he did sign. I don't know how extensive it was. I didn't see the application. So is there any comment?
It was about 2 pages worth of projects that he worked on.
Okay, so again, just to reiterate, our position is that we want them an applicant who has lapsed to be reviewed, and if found to be competent, which I believe is the case, to reinstate so that he is responsible for the work performed in that lapsed period. Agreed?
I would move that we reinstate Mr. Pelletier.
I didn't hear that.
I would move that we reinstate, Mr. Pelletier.
Thank you, Bob.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Ken. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to reinstate Edward Pelletier,
Aye.
in recognition of the list of projects that he did sign and seal during the lapse period. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing on that motion carries. Normally, we would excuse the surveyors to move on unless there's any new surveying business that someone would like to discuss or bring to the attention of the board.
Hey, Tony, it's Jane. Did you want to do the, before they go, talk about the continuing ed?
Yeah, that was something that Ryan initiated, so I want to know if was anything progressing in that regard or any new information that could be provided.
Well, I don't know that we need to talk about it too much here, but just in the cows discussions, we're really, discussing continuing education, and, the position of cows is that it's important and it's supported by cows. And I think that future discussions in this board would be warranted, but I don't think that I'm prepared to talk about it today.
The reality of anything like continuing education requires a change in the statutes, which requires a significant effort and expenditure, which nobody seems to want to provide. Money being the most important, because lobbying is expensive and it doesn't seem to come to fruition, and which is the reason why we have developed policies that enable us to continue doing what we do. So I think that's the summation of it is, if it's ever going to come to fruition or be required, then there has to be a sponsor and it has to be a concerted effort. Otherwise, it will not happen in this state for a while.
Is there any reason that this board would be opposed to it if that third party were to surface and get the ball rolling?
No, I think the simple answer is, it's hard to require continuing education when we can't even get the statutes changed to require a minimum of education, right? That's been the problem for the number of times that we did try and failed. So I think that's the basis for us. Let's get the statute, and it could be done all at once. Modify the statute to require the minimum education that we've all been discussing, and then establish the onset of when continuing education would be required. It's funny, there's who's currently the president of or just finished his term as president of NCWS, and whenever I see him, he's going, "Oh, thank you, Connecticut, for not requiring continuing ed." It's not a universal request or desire, but it should be done. I mean, we should all be looking to be kept current. From the engineering side, I know that ASCE has many seminars that are available now for continuing ed. And so it's not to say that you can't have them, but the surveyors have to develop those programs too, because having another seminar and writing a deed description is not really what we're looking for. But keeping up on the different trends of drone and GPS and LiDAR, all those things that keep coming at us would be good. All right. Any further comments or discussion on that? If not, surveyors, if you wish to go back to work, you may. Thank you for participating, attending.
Before we move on to the engineering, Tony, if you don't mind, and I apologize for not being here last month. I got my wires crossed. But when I was here 2 months ago, we had a conversation about whether or not, since I'm licensed as both in PE and an LS, whether or not I should be involved in the PE part of this.
Technically or otherwise, I don't know what the answer would be. Personally, I welcome any input you can provide as a professional engineer on any of the applications. And if we've had, here's another issue we have, and I don't know if any of our attorneys are present here today, but we've asked a couple of questions and have been ignored, I will say. And one answer that we got was totally unsatisfactory, in my opinion. So as far as I'm concerned, while you're technically not an engineering member, if you desire to participate, and even if you want to review some applications, I don't see where there's a problem in that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think I definitely want to participate. I guess my only concern is I don't want to vote on anything unless it's confirmed that I can, but I certainly don't mind offering my input.
okay, so we had one application that went back and forth between Rob Lewandowski and John DeWolf. It was debated amongst the three of our four of us, whoever else was involved in it at the time, and your input on that also would be, very helpful. Based on your experience and knowledge of the profession. So your input on that would have been helpful. And if there's if there's no reason why we can't distribute controversial issues for more input, we do it. Now, who decides if it's controversial? Well, every month, one of us has a question of some kind. So maybe we start you off that way and say, you become part of the clearinghouse.
Sure.
Right? I mean, it's, unless somebody tells us that you can't participate, I just don't understand. A few years ago, we were told, if I recall correctly, and anybody can recall differently, let me know, but we had wanted to have a retired engineer be a public member, and it was told that we should not do that. Do you remember that, Al? Do you recall? And it was because it would be slanted against the public, but we don't have any public interest, so what difference does it make? So as far as I'm concerned, we could distribute applications through Ryan and be a double member. I don't participate in the surveying reviews, primarily because I have a son who's studying for a degree and a license. I've been trying to be abstained on that forever, okay? But that doesn't mean that I couldn't review them. And similarly, Bob Doan is in the same position, and so are you now, Ryan, as a dual license. I think your input on both professions is important.
Sure.
So can I make the decision for Jane to distribute the applications to Ryan if he's so inclined to review them? Because if you say yes, I will so decide.
I mean, I'm inclined to review them. I think you're referring that to Jane, though, correct?
Well, I'm asking in general of the board,
Okay.
Can we think of any reason why, and why Ryan, if he desires to participate in the review of the engineering applications, that he should not be allowed to do that? So, we could pose the question again to the.
Personally, I don't think that there's a problem. As long as he's a professional engineer and he's a member of our profession, he should, have enough knowledge and as long as we're consistent with our policies,
Right.
I think that would be a good addition.
Okay, so I guess.
I agree with you, Richard. But Well, look at my position. I sit here as a public member. I'm not reviewing anything. I'm taking your input and I'm voting based on what I get from input from you guys.
Right, but you're
So
also,
what's the difference?
your job, Al, is also to safeguard and make sure that we're being consistent, right? So,
Yes.
so I, again, as a public member, you might be inclined to agree that the more input we get from professionals is better for all of us.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I would say
Absolutely.
that,
And I don't see any harm in it based on the fact that, you know, you're going to vote like everybody else, you know, based on whatever input you're getting. The same thing that I'm doing is I'm voting based on input that I get from you,
all right, so,
you know, what's the difference?
so Ryan, if you're
Yeah.
willing and able and inclined to do so, then we should distribute applications that, by the way Jane does now, so that you have a share of them and participate in those reviews.
Yeah, I'd like to. I will say, and I said it before, I will help review by all means and provide input. But I don't think that I should vote until we have confirmation that I, you know what I mean? When we get to the voting part, I just
Okay.
won't vote on them. I just,
Okay,
but I,
so, all right, so,
until we have confirmation that I can,
Right.
I don't want to violate any laws here, you know?
right. I'm in that similar situation as the chair right now. I review applications and then I ask the board, do you accept my recommendations? You know,
Mhm.
rather than making the motion to approve. I suppose it could work either way. So Jane, because you know who our attorneys are, because I don't, they seem to change again every week. I think it's a question that very simply posed. We have a PELS member of our board currently designated as a surveying member. Is there any legal reason why he should not participate in the review of applicants as though a member of the engineering side?
Okay, so you're talking reviewing and voting or just reviewing?
No, reviewing and voting, yes, review and vote.
Okay.
Is there any prohibition against a designated LS member of the board participating as an engineer and reviewing applications due to his dual license?
Okay.
Now, We're
Of course,
talking about, we're talking about the subject matter of the application in this particular case. That's what he's reviewing.
Yes,
So that falls within consumer protection. So the consumer protection attorney should be able to answer that.
okay, thank you, Al.
Sorry, not trying to cut in, but board member DeWolf seems like he's trying to talk, but he is on mute.
Okay,
I'm not able to unmute him. He would have to unmute himself.
Someone hold up a piece of paper.
He's been trying to talk for like a minute or two. I feel bad.
who would that be?
Mr. DeWolf. He's
Oh,
talking.
John.
Yeah, he's talking now.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the attorney.
Yeah. Someone hold up a sign, tell John to unmute.
Yeah,
And if you can't unmute, I mean, I'm not able to. Maybe if you just sign off and sign back in, that'll work.
All right,
Yeah,
That
I
work?
was surprised John didn't weigh in on this.
okay. There you go, John, unmute, yes.
There you go.
can't unmute.
Uh-oh.
It looks like he's writing something back, potentially. Yep. How?
On the, well, my toolbar comes up right across the bottom.
I think I just did it. Can you?
There you go.
Yes,
You got
there you
it.
go,
Hit the
yeah.
microphone.
Okay.
What was your
This is
input?
not set up well. I'm having a lot of trouble with the way this whole thing works. It's not like Zoom. I can't see most people, but I want to go back to Ryan. Why shouldn't he be listed as both Tony and Bob as a LSPE?
The only
That's the
reason,
question. He's listed as a member as LS. Shouldn't he be listed both as PELS?
he could be listed as PELS, but the statute enabling the board to be formed required three surveying members, 3 engineers, dual license, and 3 public members, right? So he was designated as an LS member to fill that gap. His,
Oh, I thought
his
it was 4, 4, and 4.
whatever the numbers are, you know, it's like, but we got, it's not that way. It's different. Okay. We have,
I'm all for having Ryan participate, but I think we need to get that corrected. And I think that's a legal matter.
right. So they were, regardless of how it is, I think that the question should be posed to our DCP attorney, as Al suggested. Is there any reason why a dual license sitting on the board as a designated LS member cannot participate in engineering reviews? I think it's a simple question. Can you write it that way, Jane?
I sure will.
Okay. And then give it, and make sure that he responds. It shouldn't take, you know, a full month. Okay. Well, get ready, Ryan. Dave's gonna send you a whole stack.
Sounds good.
All right. Is there any other new business? If not, I think we would move on to our regular agenda for engineering items.
All right, I'm leaving.
Okay.
I'm leaving
Thank
as
you,
well.
Mayor. See you next month, because we have another meeting next month.
Right.
Have a good month, guys.
Thank you.
Right.
Right, the next item on our regular agenda was the D items, which was the candidates who passed the CBT and NCAAS exams, chemical, civil, electrical, environmental. We covered them all. Chemical, civil, electrical, environmental, and mechanical. That's just a notice that they did pass. That moves us on to our regular agenda for Class 1 Credit Part 1. I reviewed the first applicant list. Which was Albrecht, Bauer, and Belkamar. Bellamkar. Anyway, I found them all to be qualified to take the exam based on education and experience. So my recommendation would be for a motion to approve Albrecht, Bauer, and Bellamkar. Is there a motion to accept my recommendation?
I'll move it.
Thank you, John.
Second.
Thank you, Bob. Just got to get back to my correct agenda. Okay. All those in favor of the motion to approve, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Hearing on that motion carries. And Bob Doan reviewed Bogazak, Dollard, and Emerson.
I make a motion to approve all 3.
Thank you, Bob.
Second.
Richard? All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. And Rob Lewandowski provided his recommendations for approval of the next 3 applicants with a discussion. Just bear with me for a moment because I made so many notes. Okay. He had a concern that John DeWolf also reviewed about William Hughes. And one
You
of
want me to
the
make a motion?
issues, what's that?
Shall I make a motion on Hughes?
Yes, please.
Okay, I move that Hughes be denied for lack of experience following the degree. He has 4 months plus a PhD. He needs another 20 months of experience before he can
Following the
take the
degree.
exam.
So again, Ryan, in those situations, we've determined or decided or been consistent on the issue that an individual studying should not be given credit for the, experience when working as a graduate assistant or whatever. But he gets a credit of a year for PhD or master's. So it turns out that he's still short. We gave him credit for being an intern because you're actually working and learning as an intern. So there's a difference between your education and your actual work experience. So that's how that summation. First, Rob came up with that evaluation and assessment. Then John looked at it independently and came to the same conclusion. We rely on John a lot, because he knows exactly what the curriculums are better than I do for sure. So the end result is there's a motion now to deny due to lack of experience following the degree, recognizing credit for the degree as the PhD and the master's. So it's been moved
And
by
the 4
John.
years,
What was that, John?
he has 4 years of legitimate, 4 months of legitimate experience between the bachelor's and the PhD.
So is
he
there a
just
second
needs-
to the motion to deny due to lack of experience
I'll
following?
second that.
Who was that? Who was it? I'm sorry.
Richard.
Richard, okay. All those in favor of the motion to deny, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. The next two applicants, Scott Jones and Matthew Kibazar, he recommends approval. So is there a motion to accept his recommendation?
So moved.
Thank you, Bob.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, John. All those in favor of the motion to approve Jones and Kibazar, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Was there an opposed? No. All ayes. The motion carries. John DeWolf reviewed Raleigh, Schwab, Torab, and Wilco's for Class 1 Credit Part 1.
Jane, I don't have any record that Wilco's has the EIT. The application doesn't show that he passed it.
I
Which one
can
was it?
quickly confirm that.
Which applicant was that, John?
Wilco's, so Gregory
Oh,
Wilco's.
okay.
So I'm inclined to move that he be approved for both exams. Is that appropriate?
It would cover it. If he has already passed it, then that would be acceptable. In other words, you can make the motion to approve Raleigh, Schwab, Torab, and Wilcas subject to verification of Wilcas passing the EIT.
I think I just assumed do it separately. So
Okay,
I'm going to move.
all right, let's do it separately.
Wait,
That
excuse
Raleigh,
me one
Schwab-
second, John. Excuse me. So I just
Okay.
checked NCEES and he did pass it in April.
Okay, so then I'll move that all 4 be approved for Class 1 Credit Part 1.
I'll
Thank you,
second
Jane.
it.
I missed the second. I'm sorry. I have to keep looking up.
Al,
Al, thank you, Al. Been moved in second to approve Raleigh, Schwab, Torab, and Wilco's for Class 1 Credit Part 1. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. No. I have to go to another sheet. Bear with me for a minute, please.
Hi, Bumpy. That's on the phone, but it is. She's not listening.
All right, so On page 4 and 5 of our regular agenda, I reviewed the applicant's Alawa and Bayek through Dubati on page 5 for class 4 reciprocity. And out of the, it actually turned out to be 11, 10 were model law, all currently licensed and current in another state. So my recommendation is to approve all 10 on our regular agenda, plus Stephen Bryant, who was added shortly thereafter. So
I'll make that motion, Tony.
your motion to accept, Rob Doan. The second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Al. Again, the only discussion I would have is that everybody, all but one was a model law, and the only one that was not was a technical degree from Northeastern, but with tremendous experience, so they passed. So all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Five out of the 10, for what it's worth, had masters. So it's a trend. So Rob Lewandowski reviewed the next group, and he sent his recommendations for. Bear with me again for a moment. Yeah, okay. All right, he reviewed Ekaliker, Everett, Ferguson, Fisher, Gannon, Gusto, Hone, Hood, Aslam, Jackson, and Kellogg. Those are on page 5 of the regular agenda for class 4 reciprocity. We found out of the 11, only 2 were non-model law, both for foreign degrees, both with evaluation, and he recommends approval. Was there a motion to accept his recommendation?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Richard. Second?
Second.
I'll
Thank you,
second.
Rob. Any discussion? Those in favor of the motion to approve Ekalar through Kellogg, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Okay, that goes over there. All right. The next group of applicants for class 4 reciprocity was reviewed by Bob Doan, Kelsey through NGO on page 5 of our regular agenda.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve everybody except for Melvin Monty Joseph.
Okay,
Second.
Second.
right. All those in favor of the motion to approve Kelsey through Miller and Morgan through Eng on page 5 of our regular agenda, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. So in regard to Monty Joseph,
Okay, Melvin is listed as a model law engineer. He has a degree from VIT University, which is Vellore Institute of Technology in India. The degree has not been, as far as I can see, it hasn't been evaluated. And he has 3 years, 6 months experience total. And I don't know how he's listed as a model law engineer.
I had one also that was in India, education. And similarly, there was no evaluation. So my question would have been, in the supplemental, if that is a reason, and you have the same thing here. So do we have an accord with India that we're not aware of, or that we have experienced before?
I don't, yeah, I'm confused by the degree, and I'm also confused by only having 3 years, 6 months experience.
That would be enough to at minimum table it and have it updated or confirmed as to whether or not, well, the 3 years, 6 months period, it doesn't work.
Well, I'm sorry, Tony. I should have added in his master's. He has a master's in
Okay.
electrical. So with the master's, he would have enough experience, but I'm confused about the degree.
We
Well,
should have
let's
it
change-
evaluated.
Yeah, can we, I make a motion to deny and get his degree evaluated if necessary, and if not necessary, tell us why it's not necessary.
Good point, because I'll apply that to the one I was gonna raise the same issue on later on, and in that, not to divert, no, to digress, but the transcript from India has a stamp on it from NCAAS, as though they received it, reviewed it, and approved it. You see? But it wasn't the normal evaluation. So it wasn't that they never saw it. So we might be able to determine that in fact we have accepted that university as ABET accredited, you see?
Yes, I have a similar notation that official document received directly from the institution, and it has NCES
Same
adjacent.
thing on mine. Table it or approve it subject to verification.
Or we
Jane can
could,
make a call.
yeah, we could table it, I guess, and or yeah, I don't mind. We could make it subject to verification that it was.
Right. Can call
I did-
NCAAS and verify that the two universities, it may be the same question. You know, when we get to it, we can look at it and see if it's the same university.
I
Yes.
did just check
Okay.
the NCES records, and it's not evaluated in his record for whatever reason. So I can reach out to NCES, like you said, to figure out what's what with that.
Right, okay, so let's table it then.
We'll table it. I make a motion to table. I lost his name. Melvin Monsi Joseph.
Second,
Second,
Richard? Been moved and seconded to table the review of Melvin Monsi Joseph, pending verification that NCAAS accepts the Indian degree as a ABET equivalent. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries.
Thank you.
So, Ryan, there are some universities that have been accepted, you know, and a couple of Canadian universities, for example, right? So this may be one of those. And I think Jane can check with NCAAS and ask why it wasn't, and if we do have an agreement. And then, Jane, you might ask for what that list might be, so you have it current, because I would not know where to look for it. All right. The next group of applicants is for Class 4 reciprocity, reviewed by Richard Swizak, Paquette through Stark on page 6 of the regular agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve all of the applications with the verification that Mr. Hernan Peralta has an active license. His license expired last month.
Vernon Peralta,
Yeah, Hernan Peralta.
okay. Subject to-
And there was only one non-model law, Mr. Rob. And he has plenty of experience, so I'll make a motion. We approve all of them with that stipulation that we verified the license of Mr. Peralta.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Al. Subject to verification. Okay, all those in favor of the motion to approve Paquette through Stark, subject to verification of current licensure for Peralta, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. John DeWolf reviewed Stone through Zimmerman for Class 4 reciprocity.
Okay, so I will note that Weber has a Bachelor of Technology, but he has 36 years of experience, so he's fine. And I have the same problem with Silva that his license expired last month. So I'm going to move approval of the entire list, subject to confirmation that Silva is still currently licensed.
Okay, all those in favor, or in second,
Second,
is who?
Richard.
Who, Richard?
Yes.
All those in favor of the motion to approve Stone through Zimmerman for Class 4 reciprocity, subject to verification of Aaron Sylvia, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries.
I forgot to note one other thing, and I apologize, and that is Mr. Tate in 2008 didn't renew his license and got fined for it, but then got it renewed right after a year later, so everything was okay.
What
I
state
forgot
was
to note
that? What state was that? Do you remember?
Oh dear. Let's see, he's licensed all over the country,
Oh, okay,
but
doesn't
in
matter.
2008, he didn't renew a license and he practiced and then he got it corrected with a fine.
Well, the individual that I also reviewed had like 20 different states. It's not unusual, not surprising to see that they might have missed one because they come at different times. But that was Louisiana and he paid a big fine. Okay,
Here's the statement. In 2008, he accidentally let his South Carolina license lapse and performed works during this period. He renewed the license, paid the fine, and his record was cleared to have no issues since.
okay.
So,
But it was moved and seconded to approve that group Stone through
yeah,
Zimmerman.
it's approved.
Yep. So the next
Okay.
group, the next item on our regular agenda was to approve the Class 9 licenses, McConnell through McKenna. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Wow.
I don't know. John DeWolf, I think, moved it and Al seconded it. Everybody's talking at once. All those in favor of the motion to approve Class 9 licenses for McConnell through McKenna, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Hearing none, that motion carries. Then we move on to our supplemental agenda. And just make sure. Just want to make an edit here. All right. So the first item on the agenda is supplemental is to reconsideration of permit for Class 1 Credit Part 1 for Michael Coulard, reviewed by Bob Doan.
You know, I'm going to make a motion to approve this guy. And I think what happened was that when he resubmitted, he still listed himself as having 3.75 years of experience. And if you go back into his record and the dates, he has over 4 years. So I think perhaps at the last meeting, I didn't credit him 3 months because he didn't give himself the 3 months either. But it is in his experience record, and I'll do the math for him, and he has 4 years.
Okay. He has to learn to read the specifications before he does the design.
He does. But I'll make a motion to approve and move him on, and I apologize for the delay with it.
Second.
Thank you, Richard. All those in favor of the motion to approve Michael Coulard, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. John DeWolf reviewed a group of applicants for Class 1 exam credit Part 1, Brown through Singal.
Okay, I'm having a problem with Brown.
Okay.
He has a BS in May 2018. He then went on to work on a master's from a Master of Business Administration, which is not engineering, obviously, from 9/2018 to 9/2019. He is using some experience in that period that isn't quite right.
Right.
He's counting some experience while he was doing his MBA, and I'm not sure that is correct.
Correct. That's what we just discussed with Ryan. If you're in school doing something else, you're not working. You know, you could
And
be
it appears
going
that he did the
part-time.
MBA. Hold on. He did the MBA in 1 year, 33 credits. So I assume it's full time.
Right.
He did not do it part time. He did it in a year, and he's counting some experience during that, and it's not clear. So I would like to know.
Right.
Was the MBA a full-time program?
Right. Well, you can deny it because of your reading of the application that he was in full-time student for 1 year. This doesn't count toward engineering experience. Send him the letter, let him dispute it and show otherwise. His experience record would have to show that with confirmation, what do you call it? Verification of employment. So at this point, John, you're going to deny it due to lack of experience following the degree.
I will move that it be denied for lack of 4 years experience. And the reason being, it appears he was a full-time student for part of that experience period.
For a second?
Second.
Thank you, Al. All those in favor of the motion to deny Isaiah Brown due to lack of experience following the degree because full-time students on the MBA program does not count toward engineering experience. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries.
Okay, Mr. Singhal has a foreign bachelor's degree. It was evaluated, and he's missing 9 years of math and 9 hours of math and science and 9 hours of general ed, but he does have a PhD, so everything is fine. So I move that Norberg, Oaks, and Singhal be approved for Class 1 exam credit Part 1.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Bob. Bob? All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. John, just for my notation, who was the one with the foreign degree and the PhD?
Singhal. The last one and
Oh,
fourth
single.
one.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, I reviewed the next group of applicants. I would like to take one separate, which is Fadi Habil. While he has 4 licenses, he has an Arabian bachelor's and then a master's from New Jersey Institute. However, there was no evaluation, although the transcript was received and stamped by NCEES. Therefore, I'm recommending that we table Fadi Habil pending verification that NCEES accepts the foreign degree as ABET equivalent. Is there a motion? Is there a?
I'll make that motion. Tony.
Thank you, Rob.
I'll
Bob?
second that.
Thank you, Richard. So we're gonna table pending NCEES evaluation of the foreign degree as ABET equivalent. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Couple of notes on the other ones, which I will approve all. Cunningham, DeJong, Ecker, Beiser, Goff, and Havlicek. Plus Bryant and Evans on page 2 of the supplemental agenda. Notation is that DeJong, while he has multiple licenses and primarily works in the petroleum field, currently licensed in Minnesota, had 2 court appearances and convictions back in 99 and 91 and 99, all resulting from some alcohol effect. Regardless, at one time he spent a few days in jail and made the mistake of asking for the badge number of a officer in West Virginia. So going back to 99, he seems to have recovered. I don't know that he stopped drinking, but nevertheless, he has paid his dues, and I would recommend approval at this point. So I recommend approval of Cunningham, DeJong, Ecker, Beiser, Goff, and Havlicek. Is there a motion to accept my recommendations? And by the way, Mr. DeJong is a model law engineer.
So moved.
Is there a recommendation is there a motion to accept my recommendation?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Richard. A second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Al. All those in favor of the motion to approve Cunningham, DeJong, Ecker, Beiser, Goff, and Havlicek for Class 4 reciprocity? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Just for the record, that I did say it initially, but Brian and Evans on page 2 were included in that motion. So, leads us to the next group reviewed by John DeWolf of Kennedy, Knowles, and LaRoche on page 2 for Class 4 reciprocity.
Okay, here's an unusual one, Knowles. He's a model law. He is listed on the standard form as having 6 years, 9 months of experience. So I still go by and I try to read the experience, and I can't tell what language it's in. And it appears to be garbled. From what I can tell, it looks like good experience, but I can't even read it. I mean, it's a normal description, but somehow I think the computer is garbled his description.
You know, in mine,
Jane, do you
reading
see
them on the
that?
computer, reading the applications on the computer, I had the same reaction. I had to fill in the blanks. Most of the time it was an L missing.
And an I.
So it wasn't just mine.
No.
Okay.
Mine also, Jen. Mine was garbled too.
Yeah.
was making my eyes water.
But he's fine. He looks fine. So I'm going to move the approval of all three, Kennedy, Knowles, and LaRoche.
All right, is there a second?
Second,
Thank you, Richard. All those in
So
favor
I
of the
wasn't
motion
the
to,
only one.
what was
No,
that? No, you weren't the only
I
one.
wasn't the only one.
you weren't the only one.
I wasn't going to admit it.
Okay.
Maybe it was my computer, but now that the truth is out, we're all okay. All right, all those in favor of the motion to approve Kennedy, Knowles, and LaRoche for Class 4 reciprocity, say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. The Bob Doan reviewed Larson, Macon, and Picardo.
I wasn't going to admit the missing letters either. Because it's better than my typing. But I'll make a motion to approve all three. Picardo is not a model law, but his degree was evaluated, missing a couple of general ed, but it was equivalent. So I make a motion to approve all three.
Thank you. Second?
second,
Second,
All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. And Richard reviewed the last 5 applicants, none of which I'm going to try to pronounce.
Oh, come on, Tony.
Samanyafan down through Zarad.
I just have a couple of comments in terms of Mr. Eulacio Alvarez had a degree out of Venezuela, but it was deemed equivalent. And Mr. Zurad actually took his tests, his fundamentals in 1975, and it was from the state of Illinois, which wasn't NCAAS approved, so he's a non-model law, but I finally found somebody who took his license before I did. So, and he graduated from college in 1972, which is a long time ago. So we can forgive that. So I'll make a motion that we approve all 5 of them.
I'll
Second.
second.
Who's the second, Al?
Yeah.
One of the things I can't see who's making the motion because Richard's been frozen in time since the meeting started, so he doesn't light up and his lips don't move. So I think he's practicing ventriloquism.
Well, I'm out here in Colorado, so I'm not sure. Maybe it's the
In
time
about an
lag or
hour,
something.
everything will reach us. So
There's a
Yeah.
time lapse, yeah.
And,
Right,
and
all
I
those
saw
in
my,
favor of the motion to approve.
every time I look, I don't see myself on the screen, and I'm over there. Hopefully, they're seeing me and hearing me, but I don't see
Look
myself.
good. We can hear you and you look great. So all those in favor of the motion to approve Saman Yafan through Zurad, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. We're down to our last item, which is the reinstatement of 4 applicants. And only one, Mr. McIntosh, provided a list of those that he signed.
And
the past
I
year.
did not see that list online. But I will still make a motion to approve all 4. I reviewed the applications. I didn't print them, but I reviewed them online, and I didn't see a list of the projects that were signed and sealed for Macintosh.
But the fact is, he
But
provided.
it doesn't, it's really doesn't matter because we would approve them anyway.
Right.
So Bob, just so you know, on the reinstatement application itself, it has it on there.
Oh, it does? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
must
I
have
think
missed
it was
then.
just one project, but he
Oh,
listed
was?
it on
Okay,
there.
that's why I missed it. Okay.
Yep.
And
I was
Ryan, just
looking for a separate document. Okay.
Ryan, as background, our statutes say that if a license lapses within 5 years, we shall reinstate.
Yes,
So we're obligated to by statute.
Yep.
However, if it's more than 5, we do require an application. So
Mhm.
that if he's been doing baking for 5 years and not been doing any continuing education, then probably not a good thing. So anyway,
Yep.
the motion is to approve. Is there a second?
Second,
Second,
All those in favor of the motion to approve Chiaffi, Luna, McIntosh, and Welford for reinstatement, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. I will say, I think we all did pretty good because the information, the supplementals were coming in at different times and, I was scrambling to make sure I got them all. But I think we did pretty good under the circumstances and we're relying on Jane to get it all out under the pressure of the other individual saying, I gotta have this by tomorrow. Right, Jane?
Oh, yes, we have a lot of those.
Yeah.
I appreciate all of you.
What's that?
I said, I appreciate all of you.
Okay, we'll just get there, but
Tony, did we resolve the issue regarding our matrix for
no, that was what I said was
LLCs?
unacceptable. We asked a question of the attorney saying, who, if it's not you, who then can tell us if this is accurate as of today? Because we're using it for evaluation of compliance. And the response was, I don't know how to do that. Well, wait a minute, you're the attorney. But Jane, I don't even, like I said before, our attorneys keep changing. And he said, or I think maybe you mentioned, he won't be here in a week. So who do we rely on? Maybe Al can tell us. Where do we go for support? We should be getting when we ask this question about, is the matrix accurate today? Have there been changes in the statutes? That thing was put out in 2013, I think.
Yeah,
By
it was.
Peter, who's not here anymore.
Right.
So
And Peter was Attorney General's office, correct?
I don't know
Okay,
anymore.
because what happens is the board itself and the matters pertaining to the members of the board is Attorney General's our attorney. We're supposed to have an attorney from there, which we haven't had in years. And then when it comes to the subject matter, that goes back here to Consumer Protection. That's their attorney voices on that. So the guy that should be doing that is someone from the Attorney General's office should be updating it for us.
So Jane, who would that be? Do you know? Who would be the attorney assigned to our board from the Attorney General's office?
I have no idea, but I can find out.
It's a question that I guess is fair to ask, So board attorney from Attorney General office. One of the situations that I trying to recall an example of was when we realized something that I believe had to do with an LLC, that you could have an LLC from Pennsylvania that did not have any members that were professionals. Do you recall that? Or am I remembering that correctly?
I think you are, Tony.
And they could be registered in Connecticut by designating professional licenses, from Connecticut. And I think that's a critical issue to understand or be advised as to whether or not it is accurate. But that's one of them on the matrix that doesn't really come clear from that 2013 plotting. So anyway, I think if we can first, Jane, try to identify who from the Attorney General's office is assigned to our board. And then once they identify them, then we should throw that question at them right away as to whether or not that matrix and description of ownership is accurate.
Okay, I'll
Because
find out and let you know.
Okay, because right now you're the one looking at the corporate, and we didn't have any this month.
So I'm actually not looking at them. They have someone in the licensing division do it because it's a registration, not a license. So
Okay,
I don't even see any of them.
right, so we don't see them on our list at all anymore.
Right, I think because they assigned it to the licensing division because it's considered a registration as opposed to a license.
Okay, so there you go. That's the registration aspect of it. So we don't even know when those things come about. So maybe our question is moot now. That we
Yeah.
don't even need the matrix because it doesn't come to us. Right? We're not involved anymore.
It's out of our hands now.
Right,
Oh, that's interesting.
right? So they're just, who's
Well,
looking at it?
can we,
Attorney
can we
General?
verify that? Can we verify that's true? We're not going to see any more registrations. Okay, that's
Right.
out of our hands, and like you say, it's moot.
Yeah, I don't receive them at all. So you would get it from me and I don't see any of them.
Wow. Yeah, here we go. It's a couple of months into it. Now we realize, yeah, we haven't even seen any. It's kind of coincidental with the same time we kept asking about whether or not the matrix was right. I hope they know.
Hopefully they're even checking it.
Yeah, you hope that they're checking them, right? All right, well, we're not gonna second guess that
And
right
who
now.
updates the list for them?
Well, that's the
So
question.
actually I had spoken to the director of licensing, Michael Elliott. I don't know if anybody's met him before, but I spoke to him about it after legal sent back that response saying that they weren't doing it. And he said he had created one for the person who's handling all the registrations. And he sent it. So I can send that. I mean, I don't even know if you guys want it. I
I
guess
would like to see it. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
yeah, that would be
I would
helpful. I
also.
think. Bob, you used
Okay.
to, Bob Dolan used to review all those applications for us.
I did a couple of them, so yeah,
Yeah.
I'd like to see it too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that would be helpful to just see as a comparison and we could put it to bed. Now that somebody else is taking care of it. All right,
It's
Al.
interesting. Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Al. Is there a second to that?
Second,
All right, the two guys out in the mountains, we got one in Vermont and one in Colorado. So the two mountain boys have moved and seconded. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
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 All
I'm
right.
glad to see your picture finally came up.
I know. Well, I turned my camera off and turned it back on. I must have scared it or something. So,
Right. You're in motion now.
yep.
Jane, what's the date of our next meeting?
I believe it's August 8th. We had to move it up a week because
Oh, yeah,
of
because
the,
Rob was gonna be away.
well,
August
that
8th.
and the NCES annual
Oh, yeah,
meeting
that's
is
right. The
that week.
conflict with the national. Okay, agreed. Okay.
All
Have a
right.
good month, everyone.
Okay.
Thank
See
you.
you later.
2 weeks.
Hey,
Bye-bye.
Bob, I'm gonna call you after this.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Yes, Brian,
I
please
just
do.
for some reason saw your message right before the meeting started. I don't know how I missed it yesterday. Sorry about that.
I talked to you about it now, but it's a sensitive subject.
Yeah, I understood. Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay,
thank you.
take care.
Okay, take care.